Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up, because today on Boss Economics World, we're diving headfirst into the economic dumpster fire that is the Trump administration's latest budget proposal. That's right, folks, it's a fiscal vision so wild, so reckless, it could only come from the mind of a man who thinks efficiency means slashing everything that doesn't involve guns, walls, or Elon Musk's ego. Welcome to the circus, where the ringmaster is Donald Trump, the clown car is driven by the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, yes, like the meme coin, and the audience is, well, us, the taxpayers, left holding the bag as the economy teeters on the brink of disaster. Let's break it down, point by point, surface to core, and expose how this so-called vision is nothing short of a government-sanctioned economic meltdown. Let's start with the headlines, shall we? Trump's fiscal year 2026 preliminary budget is out, and oh boy, it's a doozy. The White House is proposing to slash discretionary spending at 5 cabinet departments by over a quarter, think housing, environmental protection, science, while pumping up military and border security budgets like they're trying to win a geopolitical arm wrestling match. The Department of Homeland Security alone is set to get a jaw-dropping 65% budget boost. Meanwhile, the State Department? Gutted by 84%. The EPA? Practically on life support. The National Science Foundation? Sorry, nerds, no funding for you. Now, I know what you're thinking, budgets are just proposals, right? Congress will fix this mess. Oh, sweet summer child, wake up and smell the chaos. This isn't just a budget, it's a manifesto, a vision board for what happens when you let Elon Musk's DOGE squad run wild, tearing through federal agencies like a kid with a flamethrower in a candy store. And here's the kicker, some of these cuts are already happening, thanks to DOGE outrunning the legal system and bypassing Congress's constitutional power of the purse. That's right, folks, the checks and balances we learned about in high school civics. Apparently, they're optional now. Let's dig into the numbers, because numbers don't lie, unlike certain politicians. If Trump's budget were enacted, the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security would gobble up 2/3 of all discretionary spending, up from 57% in 2025. To put that in perspective, the U.S. already spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined, $886 billion in 2024, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI. And now, Trump wants to pour even more cash into tanks, drones, and border walls, while domestic programs like housing and healthcare get the budgetary equivalent of a paper cut. What's the economic fallout here? Well, for starters, this kind of spending imbalance is a textbook recipe for economic inefficiency. Economists call it the guns versus butter model. Every dollar spent on military hardware is a dollar not spent on education, infrastructure, or healthcare, all of which have higher long-term economic multipliers. A 2023 study by the Watson Institute at Brown University found that $1 billion invested in healthcare creates 14,000 jobs, compared to just 7,000 jobs for the same amount spent on defense. But hey, who needs jobs when you've got shiny new fighter jets, right? And let's not forget the opportunity cost. The U.S. infrastructure is crumbling, literally. The American Society of Civil Engineers gave our roads, bridges, and water systems a C in their 2021 infrastructure report card, estimating a $2.6 trillion investment gap over the next decade. But instead of fixing bridges, Trump's budget says, nah, let's build more walls. This isn't just bad economics, it's economic sabotage. Now, let's talk about the other side of the coin, the savage cuts to domestic agencies. The State Department, down 84%. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, slashed to ribbons. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, basically told to pack up and go home. And the National Science Foundation, NSF. Well, who needs science when you've got vibes, right? Trump's justification for this carnage is his obsession with the so-called deep state, a shadowy cabal of civil servants who, in his mind, are out to undermine his agenda. But let's be real, these agencies aren't the deep state, they're the backbone of a functioning society. The State Department handles diplomacy, preventing wars that would cost far more than its budget. HUD addresses housing affordability, a crisis so bad that 12 million American households now spend over half their income on rent, according to the Joint Center for Housing Studies at Harvard. The EPA protects our air and water, remember Flint, Michigan? And the NSF funds the basic research that drives innovation, from the internet to mRNA vaccines. Here's the economic reality, gutting these agencies doesn't save money, it costs money. Take the EPA, for example. A 2022 study by the National Bureau of Economic Research, NBR, found that every dollar spent on environmental regulation generates $3 in economic benefits, from reduced healthcare costs to increased worker productivity. But Trump's budget says, nah, let's breathe more smog, freedom. And let's talk about housing. The U.S. is facing a housing shortage of 3.8 million units, according to a 2024 report by Up for Growth. Slashing HUD's budget means fewer affordable homes, more homelessness, and higher rents, which fuel inflation, something the Federal Reserve is already struggling to control, with interest rates hovering at 5.25% as of mid-2025. But hey, why solve a crisis when you can just blame immigrants, right? Now, let's zoom in on the real villain of this story, the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, led by none other than Elon Musk. This is the guy who brought us exploding Teslas and a $44 billion Twitter dumpster fire, and now he's in charge of streamlining the federal government. What could possibly go wrong? DOGE's mission, according to the White House, is to eliminate functions and dismantle agencies that don't align with Trump's vision. And they're moving fast, too fast for the courts or Congress to keep up. Some of DOGE's cuts have already been reversed by judges, but in other cases, they've managed to bypass Congress entirely, effectively rewriting the budget without a single vote. This isn't efficiency, it's anarchy. Here's the economic problem: government spending isn't just waste, it's an investment. The Congressional Budget Office, CBO, estimates that federal spending on education, infrastructure, and research has a fiscal multiplier of 1.5 to 2, meaning every dollar spent generates $1.50 to $2 in economic activity. But DOGE's slash and burn approach ignores this, treating all government spending as fat to be trimmed. The result? A weaker economy, higher unemployment, and a bigger deficit in the long run. And let's not forget the human cost. The White House budget official bragged about being joined at the hip with DOGE, but who's paying the price? Federal workers, for one, hundreds of thousands of whom could lose their jobs, according to a 2025 analysis by the American Federation of Government Employees. That's not just a personal tragedy, it's an economic drag, as unemployed workers spend less, slowing GDP growth. So, what's the big picture here? Trump's budget isn't just a policy proposal, it's a philosophy that says government is the problem, not the solution. But here's the inconvenient truth: government isn't optional. It's the referee in the economic game, the one that builds roads, enforces contracts, and keeps the lights on. When you get the referee, you don't get efficiency, you get chaos. Look at the data. Countries with strong, well-funded governments, like Germany, Denmark, and Japan, consistently rank higher on economic competitiveness, innovation, and quality of life, according to the World Economic Forum's 2024 Global Competitiveness Report. Meanwhile, countries that let their public sectors wither, like the US under Trump's vision, see rising inequality, stagnating wages, and crumbling infrastructure. And let's talk about the deficit, because Trump loves to claim he's a fiscal hawk. The CBO projects that his budget cuts, combined with tax cuts for the wealthy, will actually increase the federal deficit by $1.2 trillion over the next decade. That's right, folks, less revenue, more borrowing, and a bigger bill for our kids to pay. Here's the bottom line, folks: Trump's budget isn't just bad policy, it's a recession waiting to happen. By slashing investments in education, housing, and science, he's killing the engines of long-term growth. By militarizing the budget, he's wasting resources on low multiplier spending. And by letting DOGE run wild, he's undermining the rule of law and the stability that markets crave. Don't believe me? Look at the markets. The S&P 500 dropped 3% the day after the budget proposal was unveiled, as investors panicked over the uncertainty. The yield on 10-year Treasury notes spiked to 4.8%, signaling fears of higher deficits and inflation. And the Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index? Down 5 points in May 2025, as Americans brace for cuts to the programs they rely on. So, there you have it, folks, the Trump budget, a masterclass in economic self-sabotage. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Look at the data, look at the markets, look at the crumbling bridges and the rising rents. And then ask yourself, is this the future we want? If not, it's time to get loud, get active, and hold this administration accountable. Smash that like button, share this video, and let's keep exposing the economic clownery, one episode at a time. Until next time, this is Boss Economics World, signing off.